Welcome to the Afrox LPG training program. We'll be going through everything you'll need to know about using gas in a busy restaurant kitchen. In order to cook, we need fire, and for fire, we need gas. You'll be working with things that are flammable daily, and that's why knowing how to use gas safely is really important. This video will show you all the safety aspects of working with LP gas and everything you need to know about gas in a restaurant. This training series consists of 6 sections with demonstrations and questions after each session. These are number 1, where and how you'll be working with gas. Number 2, what LP gas is and where it comes from. Number 3, gas cylinders and gas equipment. Number 4, the dangers of LP gas. Number 5, using LP gas safely in a restaurant. And number 6, emergency procedures. Session 1. Using LP gas in a restaurant. As far as gas in restaurants is concerned, we're going to look mainly at the kitchen area. Sometimes you might be required to work outside the restaurant for a while, but we'll get to that later. In the kitchen, LP gas is used for the grillers, flat tops, multi-burning appliances, water heaters, salamander ovens, and oil cookers. LP gas is also used for heaters on the patios outside restaurants. Now, depending on your job, it'll be your responsibility to operate these appliances. And remember, even if you don't need to work with a gas appliance yourself, it'll still be your responsibility to ensure that the area where the gas is used stays clean, clear, and safe. The cleaner has just as important a job as the person who works with a gas flame all day. What if the grill isn't cleaned properly and it blows up while somebody's cooking? Cleaning should not be thought of as cleaning up someone else's mess, but rather as making the workplace safe for everybody. There are 2 types of gas supply systems in restaurants. The first is where gas is stored in bulk somewhere inside the building complex. The gas is supplied to the restaurant through a single supply pipe. The pipe is routed safe and out of sight to avoid accidents and people from damaging it. It is secured firmly to the wall. The second possibility is where gas is supplied from large gas cylinders placed outside the restaurant. Let's go and take a look. Now, by law, cylinders must be put in a lockable enclosure for safety reasons. This enclosure must be clearly marked with all the proper signage required by law. The cylinders are configured in 2 separate groups, or banks, one acting as a backup for the other. Here you can clearly see the left bank and the right bank. Here in the middle we have the central selector valve. The valve will handle which bank is being used at the moment. When the handle is parallel to this pipe, it means that the right bank is open. The right-hand shut-off valve is open at the moment, and the left-hand valve is closed at the moment. If you take a closer look, you can see that each cylinder has a flexible hose and coupling. Notice how firmly these steel pipes are anchored to the wall. If you look at the bottom, you'll see the base ring of the cylinder and how firmly the cylinder stands. Notice the pressure regulator just before the pipe disappears into the kitchen. Everything we've seen so far in this cylinder enclosure is not part of a central supply pipe system. Remember to always lock the gate again before you leave when you've been working in the cylinder enclosure. It's very important to know where the main shut-off valve is in a kitchen. All the gas is let in through the main gas valve. The gas can be switched off with this main gas valve switch in one go. The area around the main shut-off valve must be kept clear and open at all times. The main shut-off valve is open when the valve lever is parallel to the supply pipe. The valve is closed when in the right angle position, and no gas can come into the kitchen when this valve is closed. As you can see, there is a gas pipe running along the wall that connects to the gas appliances. If we had the gas supplied from a bulk container, we'd have the same shut-off valve, but just after the valve, there'd be a gas consumption meter. Just like the meters that measure our water and light usage at home, the gas meter measures the amount of gas the restaurant uses per month. A T-piece connects the different appliances to the main gas supply pipe. Let's look at how the griller connects to the gas. The gas flows through the main supply pipe and is connected to a flexible pipe that is connected to the griller. The flex hose allows for the griller to be moved away from the wall so that you can easily clean behind it. It's important that the flex pipe always stays behind the stove so that it does not end up in the walk space. This is to prevent anyone from tripping over the pipe. One of the most important safety checks is to know that LP gas smells like rotten eggs. The reason why it's important to know what LP gas smells like is for you to be able to detect a gas leak in your kitchen. Also listen for the faint hissing sound of gas escaping. Please take a look in your training manuals for photos of what a correctly set flame as well as an incorrectly set flame looks like. You'll also find instructions in the manual on how to use a soapy solution to pinpoint a gas leak. Remember that whatever you learn about gas in the restaurant is also relevant at home. We use the same LP gas at home. All the safety stuff, how we handle or don't handle gas, applies at home too. You'll now have a discussion break and view all of the items discussed so far. So feel free to ask your trainer any questions that you might have before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. Where would you find the main gas shut-off valve? Question 2. How can you tell if an LP gas flame is burning correctly? Question 3. How would you know if there's a gas leak? Question 4. Why must gas cylinders be kept in a locked enclosure? Question 5. What is the purpose of a gas consumption meter? Session 2. What is LP gas and where does it come from? As you've learned in the previous session, LP gas is the gas we use in cooking, lighting and heating, as well as a few other industrial uses. LP gas stands for liquefied petroleum gas. It's also known as handy gas, a 50-50 mixture of butane gas and propane gas. LP gas has no smell or taste. When it's made, it's mixed with a strong-smelling chemical so that we can actually smell it. LP gas is highly flammable and very dangerous if not used correctly. Now, you've probably wondered, where does LP gas come from? Well, LP gas comes from huge oil rigs where holes are drilled deep into the earth to reach the fossil fuel that nature has made. The oil is pumped up, firstly to the surface, then to large containers through pipelines. Most oil drilling is done on land, but there are many oil rigs out at sea as well, drilling into the ocean floor. The oil is transported to oil refineries in overland pipelines or in huge ocean oil tankers. At the refineries, raw oil is processed to make different products like petrol, lubricating oil, and many other products, including LP gas. From the refineries, the LP gas is transported as liquid in large containers or by rail tankers to gas depots. At the depot, the gas is pumped into various cylinders. LPG is stored in various sized cylinders. These are strong steel cylinders designed to withstand high pressure. The cylinder valve and pressure regulators make it possible to control the flow of gas in a safe way. Because LP gas is highly flammable, it's mainly used for cooking, lighting, and heating. But it also has many other industrial uses like gas welding and heat treatment. You're probably wondering how and why LP gas burns. LP gas is a fossil fuel created by nature over millions of years. It has a natural quality for being highly flammable, but on its own, it's unable to burn. It needs oxygen. You'll now have a break to discuss the properties of LP gas. Feel free to ask your trainer any questions that you might have before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. Where does LP gas come from? Question 2. Describe the journey of LP gas before it ends up in the kitchen. Question 3. Why can you smell LP gas if it's odorless? Question 4. Why does a gas cylinder have a control valve? Question 5. Name the 3 main uses of LP gas and why it is used for that. Question 6. Why does the gas inside the pipe or cylinder not ignite in spite of it being so flammable? Session 3. Gas cylinders and gas equipment. We'll now look at each item in the gas system in detail. These are all normal LP gas cylinders. You get small ones of 5 to 7 kilograms for the home, medium 9 kilogram cylinders for the dry and light industrial use, and then you get the big 48 kilogram ones, like the ones we saw here in the restaurant. 42 kilograms is their empty weight. When filled, they weigh around 92 kilograms. At the top of the cylinder is the valve with its strong protector ring to protect it from getting damaged. At the bottom is the base or the foot ring. The cylinder has a dome shape on the bottom, and the foot ring helps keep the cylinder stand upright. This is an example of a neoprene hose that's used for LP gas. It's manufactured of the right materials so that the LP gas, which is a petroleum product, will not damage it. It's important to never damage this hose so that the gas does not leak out from it. There's a picture of the brass coupling in your training manual. Please take note of the little black O-ring at the front. This is the part that actually forms a seal, and it should never ever be damaged or over-tightened. You can read more about the steel pipe in your training manuals as well. The pressure regulator is used to reduce the pressure from the inside of the cylinder to the pressure required by appliances. The gas consumption meter works like a water and electricity meter we have at our homes. It measures the right amount of gas flowing through it, and it's read every month to determine the gas consumption of the restaurant so that the restaurant can pay the correct bill. The main shut-off valve has 2 purposes in the restaurant. Firstly, to shut off the gas supply at night, and secondly, in case of emergencies. This is why it must always be accessible and kept clear and visible. The last thing you need to know about is the protective clothing you have to use. There are photographs and more information about it in the training manual. You will now have a break to discuss the equipment covered in this section. Feel free to ask your trainer any questions that you might have before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. What is the purpose of the rubber O-ring in a flex hose coupling? Question 2. Why must we use the right type of hose for LP gas? Question 3. What are the 2 things you must remember about the main shut-off valve? Question 4. What is the purpose of the gas meter? Question 5. Why would a pair of steel-toed boots be necessary when working with gas cylinders? Session 4. The dangers of LP gas. You need to be aware of the dangers of LP gas. LP gas inside a closed steel cylinder is perfectly safe. The pressure inside a gas cylinder is more than 3 times higher than the pressure inside car tires. Now, added to the pressure is the fact that LP gas is highly flammable. So, if a gas cylinder is handled incorrectly, it is potentially very dangerous. Gas cylinders have been designed and made in a specific way to ensure that they are safe and easy to use. It's important never to damage, alter, or tamper with gas cylinders in any way. As you know, LP gas is a petroleum product. It therefore contains natural solvents. So any plastic or rubber hose other than the correct LP gas hose will be damaged and later completely destroyed by LP gas. You cannot use any pipe. Although it may still look 100% fine on the outside, it may be half eaten away on the inside, and that can cause a major fire hazard. In the earlier sessions, you've learned that LP gas is not poisonous and at most will give you a headache if breathed, but it can kill you. The presence of lots of LP gas means that there is an absence of oxygen. So though LP gas won't harm you, you might die from lack of oxygen. The lowest place in the kitchen could probably be the wastewater drain. The gas would flow down the drain pipe exactly like water would. It might even flow down the sewerage pipe for hundreds of meters. A spark or burning match could easily ignite a very intense fire far away from the leaking gas appliance. For this reason, you really have a responsibility to use the gas cylinders with care and always be on the lookout for leaks. And if you find a leak, report it to the manager immediately. You'll now have a break to discuss the dangers of LP gas covered in this section. Pay special attention to the never and always rules, and feel free to ask your trainer any questions that you might have before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. Why can't we use cheaper pipe like a garden hose for LP gas? Question 2. Why could LP gas kill you if you breathe too much of it, even if it's not poisonous? Question 3. Why is it possible that LP gas could ignite hundreds of meters away from the place where the actual leak is? Session 5. Using gas safely in the restaurant. This is the practical session. You'll be learning hands-on how to use the gas equipment in the restaurant. The first thing you'll learn is how to change an empty cylinder. Now, first to unlock the gate. If it's not locked, there's a problem. You should tell your manager about it immediately. Before you start clearing the area, you first need to protect yourself. Make sure that the cylinders are clear and accessible and that you're wearing the correct PPE. You must check the central selector valve to determine which cylinder bank is empty and needs to be replaced. The handle of the valve will point in the direction of the empty bank of cylinders. If they say in the kitchen that the gas is finished, it must mean that this bank is empty. You should now close all valves on this side. Make sure that you don't start unscrewing a coupling off a line that could still be filled with gas. Once all the valves are closed, switch the main selector valve over from the empty side to the opposite full side. The reason we do this is to cut off gas flow from where we want to work. There might be some gas left in the pipelines in the kitchen, and if we just take off the coupler, the gas will flow right back out. We need to make sure that the line we're working on is closed. By opening the full bank, we've automatically closed the empty bank. When unscrewing the coupling from the empty cylinder, you need to remember 3 things. Number 1, never ever use a spanner or any other tool. It needs to be hand tight only. Number 2, because the cylinder contains flammable gas, the screw thread is opposite to normal thread. You unscrew the coupler by turning it clockwise. And number 3, take care not to damage the O-ring when you remove the coupling. Make sure you place the flex hose somewhere safe when the coupler is off. Don't let it just dangle. It may get damaged or hurt someone. Now, grab the cylinder, tilt it slightly towards yourself, and start rolling it away slowly. When you get to where you want to leave it, tilt it back slowly again. Very important, don't let go of the cylinder before you are 100% sure that it's standing securely on the base ring. Securing and connecting a full cylinder is pretty much the opposite of what you've just done. Most of the time, you'll already be wearing your gloves and will have cleared the area from clutter. But it's important to always stick to the safety rules. First, you tilt the full cylinder slightly towards yourself and start rolling it away slowly. When it's in a safe place, tilt it back slowly again. Make 100% sure that it's standing securely on the base ring. The Afrox red safety seal is an indication that the cylinder is full and that it has been filled correctly and by an authorized filling agent. Make sure the seal is an Afrox seal and not a knockoff seal from illegal fillers. You now have to check the coupler thread and the O-ring for damage. It could be anything like dirt. Just make sure that it's clean and not damaged. Pay specific attention to the O-ring. This little part creates the actual seal, and if it's dry or cracked or torn or damaged in any way, the gas will leak out. Never connect the coupling if the O-ring is damaged. Get a gas technician to replace the O-ring. When connecting the flex hose to a full cylinder, you need to remember 3 things. Number 1, never use a spanner or any other tools. It needs to be hand tight only. Number 2, because the cylinder contains flammable gas, the screw thread is the opposite to normal thread. You connect the coupler by turning it anti-clockwise. And number 3, take care not to damage the O-ring when you connect the coupling. That's it. You now have a full cylinder again. Remember, you are now using the other bank. This one is only standing by for next time, so leave the valves closed. Ask your presenter to give everyone a turn to practice replacing an empty cylinder during the break. And remember that the enclosure must always be left clean and clear when you leave, and always lock the gate. By now you should know how to open and close the main supply valve, but there are a few things to point out. The main shut-off valve should always be clearly visible, signposted, and easily accessible in the kitchen right where the gas supply pipe enters the kitchen. When the valve is closed, the handle should be at right angle to the supply pipe. When it's open, the handle should be parallel to the supply pipe. The handle can only move through 90 degrees to the one side. You'll now have a break to discuss the safe use of LP gas covered in this section. Remember to do the practical installation of a full cylinder. Feel free to ask your trainer any questions that you might have before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. What is the difference in the thread of an LP gas cylinder valve coupling? Question 2. Where would you look for the emergency shut-off valve? Question 3. How would you know if the main gas supply valve is open or closed? Question 4. Why is it not safe to store things in front of the shut-off valve? Question 5. Why is it important to check the flex hose coupling O-ring for damage before connecting it to the cylinder? Session 6. Emergency procedures. In this last session, we're going to look at emergency procedures. Emergencies always happen unexpectedly, and if you do your job right and stick to the rules, an emergency should never occur. But they do. To ensure your own safety and the safety of your co-workers, please always follow the correct procedure in an emergency. It may seem unnecessary, time-consuming, and even boring, but they're extremely important. I'll mention the procedures, but please refer to your training manuals for a more detailed description. Leaks can be detected by smell. Always be alert of a sudden smell of LP gas in an unusual place. The smell of gas will be the strongest close to the leak. Please report leaks, suspected leaks, or even the smell of gas in unusual places to your manager immediately. You can read about the restaurant's fire drill in your training manuals, but remember, if you see a fire in the restaurant, go to the shut-off valve in the kitchen and immediately kill the gas supply. The important thing about an emergency evacuation is that the last person to leave must make sure that the main gas shut-off valve is closed before leaving the premises. If it is your job to lock up at night, always close the main shut-off valve before leaving. You can obviously not do anything to ensure that crime does not happen, but we can try and minimize our risks. The first thing to do is to always be vigilant and on the lookout for crime. The second thing is to ensure that the gas cylinders are safely locked up in the enclosure outside. Spills cause slippery floors. This can cause people to fall down, and falling down in an area where gas fire cooking is taking place can be very dangerous. Make sure spills are cleared away immediately to minimize risks. Also ensure that the flexible hoses feeding the cooking appliances never block the walk areas. Accidents and emergencies happen. We can't prevent that, but we can be prepared for when they do happen. Most importantly, when they do happen, always think about what is happening to the gas in the place. Then, do something about it to make it safe. This will be your last break to discuss the emergency procedures discussed in this section. Ask your trainer any questions that you might have about emergency procedure before completing a quick questionnaire. Question 1. What should be the first thing you do when there is a fire in the restaurant? Question 2. What can you do to avoid anybody tripping over a flexible hose? Question 3. Besides locking up, what is one of the most important tasks of the last person leaving at night? And that brings us to the end of this course. Please, don't ignore what you've learned. There's more detailed information in your training manuals, and it's in your own interest to follow the proper gas procedures and safety measures. Please remember them, please apply them, and watch this video at least once a month.